One, two, three.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride it. 2,
1,
2,
3,
Monica,
Monica,
2,
1,
2,
4,
2,
Monica,
Maria,
5,
Monica,
Wednesday,
Phyllis,
4,
Angela,
3,
Sabrina,
8,
Gina,
1,
Banana,
21,
Banana,
4,
Banana,
9, Monica,
Banana, 2,
Mambo number
Mar-
5.
Margaret. Welcome back to Stacked, episode 27, everybody. God damn us.
We're going to the
What has been our stupidest intro? Do you think that might take the cake for stupid? I don't know. I think the nuclear winter would be with the arm coming out of my forehead. It was pretty fucking dumb. But
Well, I feel
my
like there was
teeth
maybe
getting removed.
that was pretty good. I think our best one so far has been when we voiced the 20th Century Fox opening.
Yeah.
We gotta do the Universal one sometime. No,
Yeah,
not
me
now.
too.
We gotta save that. We'll save
Yeah,
that.
we gotta say. Sorry, spoilers. That's what it might sound like. You never know. But yeah,
Alright.
Welcome back to Stacked, episode 27, everybody. I'm your host Ethan, along with,
I'm Brandon.
And Chris.
and today is a good day
To die hard.
to die hard because we're talking about Die Hard movies. Just kidding. We are talking about movies about friendship, about friends. You know, we did. I think this is similar to the movies about family episode we did a few weeks back. You know, but instead, this is a movie about a more platonic love for one another. You know, fellas, how did you classify what a movie about friendship was for you? You know, Chris, what was your thought process behind this?
I think for me, what kind of was an eye-opening thing for me was to kind of look at friendship as a concept in the sense of it is a lot of finding this bond between you and someone else, and it being something that brings a lot of joy, but also I think it's important to address friendship isn't always the happiness and bliss that you might always think it is, so there are intricacies there. And I
Right.
think the best friendship movies, at least which drove me to make my picks, are shaped by these ins and outs of friendships and showing how turbulent it can be, how sad it can be, but also how uplifting and great it is as something that we as humans do.
Yeah, Brandon, what about you?
I went all over the place.
Yeah.
I have one that's like an unlikely friendship. I have one that's more like cutesy, a little mature, but it's about friendship. And then the
Mhm.
last one, I wouldn't say is necessarily platonic, but I'm not saying it's not platonic.
Man, I wonder I think I have an idea what movie that might be.
I don't think you're right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Is it up on Poppy Hill?
No.
they're just friends.
Very platonic.
Very platonic. All right, no, we're not getting back to that conversation. For me,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just I had to make this movie. I focused it on just a friendship of two people. You know what I mean? I mean, you could do movies with a group of friends. You know,
Like Friends, the movie.
Friend. Is there a Friends movie?
No.
No. Or
I would
like The
not,
Hangover or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I just focused on two people and different kinds of bonds that just. I think that this is just the most platonic. I don't know. It's weird to say not romantic. It's platonic. You know, these are the most
No.
platonic movies I could think of between two people. Yeah, that's how I did this list, my stack. But let's get into how the show works, so we can just get right into the movies, because this is a movie podcast after all. So let's dive into the movies. But first, let's say how the show works. Once a week, we set a topic or theme, go our separate ways to construct our own 3-film stack. Then after a week, we come back here on the podcast and share our own stacks 1 film at a time. Then at the end of the show, we will mix and match our 9 films to make the ultimate decision on what quintessential 3-film stack we're checking out this hypothetical video store. There we go. That's how it works. Guess what? I'm kicking off this episode today with my first pick. Neither of you two have seen these movies. this series of movies, but I picked the first in the series. Uh, this first film is actually it's a compilation of sort of a television series where it was condensed into one film. Just this first one, but then the next in the series was sort of their own productions. You know, this is directed by Michael Winterbottom. It's a 2010 film. It's called The Trip. Now, have any of you guys heard of The Trip? Starring
No.
Steve Coogan and
Oh, you talk about these a lot
do I?
on Letterboxd.
Oh yeah, because I think I watched them all this year. Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon. Now let me paint a picture in your guys' head. Imagine the three of us, okay? Remember when we used to go out to lunch? You know, and
No.
there's the times we would have going out to lunch. Now picture that for a full movie, and that's what this movie is. It's kind of like My Dinner with Andre, but not really. It's because it's not one entire lunch. It's a trip. So it's about these two friends, Steve Coogan, Rob Ryan. They play exaggerated versions of themselves. So Rob Ryan's more like they're both British comedians. So Rob Ryan's more like uh, a dude who's like he really plays into his act as a comedian. Like it's hard for him to differentiate himself while he's on stage or in the real world. So he's always doing impressions and stuff like that. If you haven't heard some of his bits, like the Tiny Man in a Box, you should definitely check him out. He's a hilarious guy. And then Steve Coogan, this came out like when he was trying to go for more serious roles. So he plays into the character of like um, trying to be like sort of pretentious, you know. It sort of reminds me of the Jonah Hill character from This Is the End, you know. It's similar depictions of characters from the movie This Is the End. And the movie's just about them going on a trip up into northern England, and I think did they go to Scotland? I think so. But it's just them. They go to various restaurants. They people make meals for them, and each like set piece is just them having a meal together and doing impressions of Michael Caine or Sean Connery, and just like shooting the shit like we do during lunch, you know. And you can tell that there's like the strong friendship bond between them. I mean, they made 4 of these movies, so you know that they must like each other for them to keep making these together. And yeah, I think this is just a really good time about just friends being friends in the moment, you know. And yeah, it just reminds me of like having lunch with my friends and shooting the shit and goofing off with you guys. So yeah, that's my first pick. I don't. You guys can include something if you want. I know you both haven't seen it. Chris, have you even heard of these trip movies before?
No, not at
Today?
all. I mean,
Oh,
no, I don't think I have. Like, this is completely new to me.
yeah, you should check them out. They're really fun. They're super relaxing.
Hmm.
Uh, these are movies that like my dad showed them to me, and we'd always watch them like at like 11 p.m. at night. You know, where like we're really sleepy, but
Hmm.
they're just like these super easy to watch light films. I mean, some of the later ones still some with like some pretty intense stuff in their lives. Um, I think the fourth one being the best one, but I chose the first one in the series just because like it sets up the dynamic and everything that goes on in the series, you know.
Mm.
So, uh, yeah, that's why I chose this film. Brandon, any thoughts?
I have questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So is this like a documentary series that they turned into movies, or like is it like scripted? Like, cause I'm confused by.
I think it's unscripted. It's unscripted segments of them having lunch together, and then they sort of form a narrative around it.
So
You
like
know,
My Dinner with Andre a little bit, like you mentioned.
right. Yeah, but
I get
instead
that.
of one long dinner, it's like a bunch.
I
So
like that.
it's like you can clearly tell like there's a narrative when they're going from place to place. Like Steve Coogan is having like troubles with his agent and stuff like that. You know, trying to book gigs in America because he wants to be like a serious actor in America. And then Rob is like um, I think like he just had a kid, so he's like checking in on his wife and stuff, and like uh sort of like there's like this internal thing about him being a father and stuff like that. But like so as they're touring places in northern England, but when it comes down to them having lunch and eating the food, I think that's all unscripted and them just hanging out, you know?
Hmm.
It's a really creative series, and I think you guys should all check it out. It's super cool. All
Okay.
right.
Right.
That's my
Yeah.
first pick. Brandon, take us into your first pick.
My first pick is from 1998, a very unlikely friendship. I'm talking about the film Central Station, a
Oh.
Brazilian movie about a woman who is a widowed or single woman in her 50s or 60s who has to or is tasked with looking after an orphan child who ends up like following her around after finding her at a train station one day. And I was completely caught off guard watching this movie the first time in Latin cinema class last year, I think. Was it last year, Ethan?
It's been so long. I don't.
It has
I
been.
think. I think it. No. Was it fall of? Was it exactly a year ago? I think it might be. Yeah, I think it
Maybe.
was. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, this is a story about these two characters forming an unlikely bond as she kind of like guiltily tries to find this kid's home and where he belongs. And their
Hmm.
chemistry and rapport, although they are like 50, 60, 70 years apart in age, is like immediate. Like, there's so much chemistry there. It's totally platonic. There's a lot of kindness there, but there's also a lot of hard scenes where they lie to each other about certain things to make each other feel better, but in the end, like, they end up hurting each other because of what they do. But it is for the better. And honestly, I found it to be a beautiful movie, a very impactful movie. And right after class, I bought it on Apple because I iTunes because I was just like, that movie was just so special and kind that I was like, that there's no better friendship movie.
Yes. Central Station. We watched it together. Um, I think the thing that stood out the most to me in this movie was the kid. I forgot. Let's see. Vinicius de Oliveira. I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I probably botched the pronunciation of that. My apologies. But if I feel like one day we got to do like the greatest child actors stacked. I feel like he would be in my picks. You know, um, and I totally yeah. I think it's a really good distinction that you made of like this is clearly a platonic film. You know, like it very well could have gone like a mother son relationship that they have, but no, you totally feel like that they're just like these two different people from different ages that they come together and they share a friendship bond. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think I liked the film. I don't think I loved it just because I thought it hammered in. It's a road trip movie. I know you love road trip movies, and I think it hammered in its message of like you know the classic like it's not the destination, it's the journey. You know that sort of message that goes on. I think that it went a little too hard on that one, and it won best form, didn't it?
I believe it did, but it was also nominated for Best Actress. Uh,
Really, she
yeah,
was great too.
she lost to Gwyneth Paltrow in Shakespeare in Love, and that is
That movie just fucked over everything that year.
it did because Central.
Can we
She's
get it? Can we get a redo for the 1998 Oscars? Or I guess it would be the
no,
1999 Oscars,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We
but still,
let's just get a redo on that one.
yeah.
uh, Chris, this is a pretty inside baseball pick. Have you heard of this film?
No, I haven't. I mean, like I just searched it up on Letterbox, and like based on like what you guys were talking about, like how like this unlikely platonic friendship between this woman and this like boy, and like I don't know. I think like I feel like oftentimes, you know, it's kind of like this cross generational kind of friendship is something you don't see very often in real life and in film. But I think like you know, it's something I don't know how to put this, but like I think there's something like really interesting about like when you have something like that's so unusual, but like if it warms your heart and it's all in the right for the right reasons and everything, like I don't know, I think there's something really like sweetly beautiful about that.
Right.
Granted, I don't know anything about this movie. I don't know. Granted, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but yeah, I think like based on what you guys have told me, this seems like a really like. Am I correct to say like is this a melodramatic movie? I don't know.
It can be at times, but
Yeah.
I feel like it balances it well with like comic relief and or just like genuinely lighter moments. You
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
know, often you get sucked into the idea that a film can only be one of
Right.
those things, and it's not. I think
Hmm.
it transcends that. I think a lot of foreign film does because they know how to play with genre better than we do.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But Central Station is just like it's weird. Their relationship is almost like sarcastic too at some
Hmm.
points.
Yeah.
Like there are certain moments where like they definitely don't respect each other and it's made clear by the way they speak to one another.
Mm-hmm.
But like they have like unlikely bonds formed over small little things or experiencing hardship together and it's not relatable necessarily, but because you're a human being, you can kind of empathize for them.
Right. I was gonna say that really, it's like a very humanist film,
Hmm.
and this is another one of the films where the ending like just hits you
Oof.
hard. You know,
Yeah.
Hmm.
not spoiling anything, but just like you'll see like either way how this situation goes. It's like it's kind of a sad ending, and it's just like oh, but it like I said, it was a beautiful journey. Uh, yeah, great pick, Brandon. Chris,
Thank
do you
you.
want to take us into your first pick?
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna. I guess I'll start with this one. 2014 film, directed by I think Bl-
Dubois.
Dean de Bois. I don't know. I guess.
Du Bois.
Some the boys. 2014 Dean Du Bois. Um, it is a DreamWorks film. It's How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I love the How to Train Your Dragon series. I think it is probably maybe next to Shrek. No, it's above Shrek. And maybe no, next to Kung Fu Panda, the best work that DreamWorks
Ooh,
has put out.
okay.
I think yeah, so how to explain this? Basically this film takes place in a world where these Vikings have following the first movie have domesticated dragons as their pets, but also they now are an active part of their community and their way of life. Now, the heart and soul of the entire series rests on the shoulders of the relationship between the lead character Hiccup and his pet dragon Toothless. Now, I think a lot of people, when they see this movie, the first thing they think of is this is just like me and my pet. It really does
Right.
feel like you see a bond between a person and someone else on a level that is so like yeah, I don't know, like you don't really communicate with your pets in like verbally in the sense of like you guys are having a verbal exchange, but there's a connection that you have there. There's a level of trust and there's a level of like intimacy that you guys have with one another. And I think they explore that really well. I and like I said in the beginning of the episode, one thing that I really look for in friendship films is showing this kind of dynamic of it's not always sunshines and rainbows. There's like ins and outs of it. And I think Hiccup and Toothless have throughout the entire series, you see their arc transition, and especially in this movie, there's a scene where Hiccup and Toothless are very much not good with each other.
Right.
I won't spoil the reason why because it is drastic for the entire film, but it is something that like I think best friends, no matter how good friends you are, you will fight, you'll argue, and yeah, I don't. I think that's a really great thing that they address that and but also show like friendship perseveres. And yeah, I don't know. It's such a delightful movie. I have so much fun with these movies, especially the second one, which is my favorite anytime I watch it. What do you guys think?
This is my least favorite of the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I know that's
Hmm.
kind of an unpopular opinion because I know a lot of people love the second one the most. It's a good. I think all of them are good friendship movies. The first one's really about building that bond of friendship and trust between a dragon and a human being. The second one is the furthering of that relationship, but I see it as less focused on Hiccup and Toothless's relationship and more with Hiccup and Hiccup's relationship
his
with his mom,
mom and
yeah, and
dad. Yeah.
his dad. And I really think the third one is probably like the best at depicting a friendship kind of take its course, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the beauty of that last film and especially the
Yeah.
last sequence in that film
Yeah.
really blew me away in terms of depicting friendship. But I'm not trying to undercount your choice here because I think it's still a really good film. Jay Baruchel and he does a really good job at kind of showing that part of the relationship when the other character isn't vocal because
Mm.
for the most part like Toothless doesn't vocalize, right? It's
Yeah.
mostly in the animation, right? So Jay Baruchel has to do a lot of heavy lifting with the animators here to make it seem convincing. And there are moments within the movie that do really show that friendship well. Their flight together at the beginning, for example, like
Yeah.
beautiful
With
sequence that shows that
great
they've learned to
song. Yeah.
trust each other. Yeah.
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 And they know each other outside and back, just like friends do. I just think it's not really focused on that in comparison to
Yeah.
the third one.
No, like
But they're
now that
both
you
good
say
films,
that,
all three of them.
yeah, like now that you say that, like I am recognizing like how the third one does kind of dial in to the intimacy of their friendship, and especially by the end, you really do understand what kind of dynamic they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing they do by the end is they learn to not be codependent upon each other. They're independent beings that are united by their friendship rather than
It
codependent based on their friendship.
it
Um,
does better what Wreck-It Ralph 2 tried to do about
I guess, yeah.
insecurity.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Ah.
And they did that really great. And yeah, I guess like maybe the reason I picked the second one, it's quite frankly probably just because it's my favorite of the three. But yeah, no, I totally see your point about the third one might dial into that aspect more. But yeah, Ethan, what are you a fan of these movies?
Uh, I'm middle of the road with these movies.
Hmm.
I think this one is my favorite of the trilogy, like you, Chris.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I thought I think the first one has the most memorable story just because it is like the boy and his dog in an unexpected situation. But I think I enjoy this film like you said because now we have the established relationship. Uh Now we're watching like these two sort of go through more stuff that people in a friendship do. And I like that you brought up a boy and his dog story because that is like that's a valid friendship, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think about that when I was picking my film. So um I think I mean Roger Deakins,
Yeah,
he
he
supervised the cinematography on this one, you know?
yeah,
Um it's got a great score. It's the action is always super cool in these movies.
yeah.
Um, I just I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember what exactly happens in this film. I always confuse what happens in this film with the third one. Like I
Hmm.
confuse the villains. I don't know for some reason. Is this the one with the dude who like captures dragons?
Yeah, this is the one that captures the
They
third
do in
one.
both movies.
Yeah, they do in the
Oh,
third one too.
that's
Yeah.
probably my confusion. Wait, okay, so is this like the
He
either is more
in
of
this
the like is
one
he like a scientist or something?
No, that's the third one. The
That's the
second
third
one is
one?
more just like he wants to
the second
enslave
one
them.
he's
Oh.
yeah enslaved
Oh,
them
like
and
the
use
warrior
them
dude.
Yeah,
because he wants to like kill the queen monster so that he's basically the alpha.
Okay, okay.
Whereas with
Yeah.
the third one, it's like they want to control the alpha as well as like the resources of the dragons so that they're not a threat to them.
Okay.
So
And
one's a warmonger, the other one's just like wants all the power but doesn't want it
gotcha.
through war.
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah, I you know, I sort of think that there's like a lot of similarities between the next two sequels, but I don't remember why, but it's this one was the most the highest rated one that it came out of the three, so it's my favorite. Let's just put it that way. All right, good out of the box pick there, Chris. I didn't think about a boy and his dog.
A boy.
Uh, a boy and his dog for this episode. Okay, So my second pick is a film we all saw the remake together, but I think only Brandon and I have seen the original.
Oh shit, I know what this is.
So it is
It's
not the film starring Kevin Hart and Bryan
yeah, Bryan
Cranston.
Cranston. Yeah,
It's the 2011 original, starring Omar Sy and Francois Cluzet, called The Untouchables. Now, uh, this, like Central Station, it's two people like from completely different backgrounds coming together and forging a really beautiful bond. So the movie's about a really rich dude in Paris who, because of a hang gliding accident, becomes a quadriplegic. So they're looking for like a caretaker to help him, like, uh, drive him around town, or like, there's a lot of responsibilities with taking care of a quadriplegic person, like washing them and like changing them, um, and so Omar Sy is a dude from the projects of Paris, sort of the outside lower class, and he's struggling to find a job, and um, he comes into this interview just to get a signature for like his unemployment, but because of just like his personality, uh, the quadriplegic aristocrat, sorry,
The
uh,
the
Aristocats.
the
Aristocats.
Yes.
aristocrat, yeah, and they're all cats,
Hey.
hey. No, but he sort of takes a liking to him just because by his attitude, because he doesn't want someone to like feel sorry for him, and Omar Sy kind of gives an attitude because he still treats him like a human being, and that's kind of what this dude wants. And
Sign the paper.
yeah, so he signs the paper and he actually ends up getting the job. So the movie's about them, sort of these two people, again, from different walks of life, coming together and forming this beautiful relationship. Brandon,
Mm.
you've seen this film. I think you love it just as much as me.
Yes.
What do you think of The Untouchables?
I saw this movie sometime in the early 2010s. So, like, near after it came out. I don't remember why or how. I think I saw it at home, rented it, thought it looked kind of cool. And just my dad and I really enjoyed it. It was a really good father son movie to sit back and kind of watch because it's so unexpected, you know. It starts out with this like really dramatic scene, just like the one in the remake where he's like on the way to the hospital, supposedly. And then they
Oh
kind
yeah.
of like get away with it essentially because Omar Sy was speeding. And it's like a great depiction of like their relationship, and it like much like Central Station, it's similar. You know, like there's always this. Although they're not separated by age, they are definitely separated by wealth, by background, uh, by descent.
Race.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. And despite all of those barriers, like they find a way to connect on certain levels, whether it be by music or senses of humor that are very dark and depressing, or maybe their own tragic versions of their backstories. I mean, the wealthy guy in this movie, played by Closet, is
Hmm.
very like dark. His background is dark. He lost his legs basically in a motorcycle. It was a diving or motorcycle accident because I
No,
think they might have
it
changed.
was it was hang gliding. It
Was
was
it hang
paragliding.
gliding?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's still the same in the remake, because remember
okay,
they go off and they do it together, which is
right,
so
right, right.
it's a great
It's
sequence.
poetic, yes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's a good moment too. I mean, and then Omar Sy's character has this dark background about not really living up to his potential as a person, as well as fitting into these blocks that society wants him to fill into, and how he kind of
Yeah.
feels stuck. So it's like they kind of prop each other up as characters and as friends, which is kind of what friends are supposed to do. And yes, they have moments where like verbal spats where they get into it because one of them says the wrong thing or doesn't act the way they want to, or the other one kind of goes behind his back thinking he's doing the right thing for his friend, but the friend doesn't really want it.
Hmm.
And they get into arguments, but it's felt because there is so much chemistry there. There is so much like relationship that needs to be built upon and explored that you just feel it. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Chris, you've seen the remake.
Yes. So like hearing what you guys were talking about, it really like it really does show me, even though I haven't seen the original,
Mm-hmm.
how much just in concept the original is better. Like
Yeah.
Brandon, you were talking about how their cultural differences, their upbringing, their economic status, their racial background, and everything being these aspects that kind of like, oh, like these guys are friends. Like, well, that's a little weird, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But like, realizing that like friendship it should not be determined by anything other than you having a connection with this person
Yeah.
and being able to like find happiness in their company. So I don't, like the I don't have any like original like
Mm-hmm.
anything from the original film to reference, but like in comparison to what we got in the upside,
Yeah.
that really wasn't the case. I never read that as a story about race, about class, or about anything other than two funny guys. Let's put them in a movie. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It always just felt very like one dimensional
Yeah.
in comparison to what you guys were sharing about the original film.
I
You
mean,
can
it's very similar in
Yeah.
plot, but they don't. I think they pay more attention in the original to like the relationship and then side characters that help make that relationship whole.
Yeah.
Whereas in the upside, it's mostly jokes about this guy being a quadriplegic and then the other guy not knowing how to deal with that or
Yeah.
evolving to this richer lifestyle,
Yeah.
essentially, taking advantage of this. And the first one's like about making people better, making
Yeah.
each other better.
I was just thinking like I guess like the what I think the biggest issue that um the remake had that and it should have noticed this when it was deciding to remake the original was that I think they got too caught up in the star power of Kevin Hart, Bryan Cranston, and Nicole Kidman. I
Yeah.
think they were like, oh yeah, this will sell and this will be fine and it will be great. But like, of course, stars they do make the movie, but at the same time, you can't just throw actors into a room and expect amazing shit to happen unless it's like Jonah Hill's Crew. I don't know. Like I don't know.
I mean, it's
They
an
have to be given
Yeah.
enjoyable
something.
movie.
Yeah.
I think the upside's enjoyable. I don't think it's, but when you see the original first,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like, it's just like night and day.
Right.
Mhm. Uh,
But yeah.
Speaking of the upside, sorry, I just gotta talk about I'm currently watching through Breaking Bad right now, and I just gotta talk about like why isn't Bryan Cranston getting more like amazing work in movies? Because
Yeah.
He's very
he,
particular.
him as Walter White, like I understand the hype now, you know? Like
He's
this dude is a
fantastic.
master actor.
Yeah.
And like I just what is the biggest thing he's been in since Breaking Bad, you know?
They missed an opportunity, and I
Godzilla.
remember. Yeah,
Godzilla.
I think biggest missed opportunity was Warner Brothers not casting him as Lex Luthor in the new Superman. I
Oh
really
yeah.
think he would have been excellent.
Well,
Because and they were like, well, he's just gonna play another bald guy. I'm like, well, he's ruthless, and if what they're going for is the Jesse Eisenberg tech
but that's
billionaire,
not the billionaire that they kind of wanted. They
yeah,
wanted like a Mark Zuckerberg kind of character,
but
which
that's
is why they got
stupid.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, because it's
I don't think it's stupid because like you know because that's what our modern billionaires look like Jesse and they're like annoying pricks like that Lex Luthor. But anyways, I think he would play a perfect Lex Luthor, and I think he should play such a complex villain like that.
I
You
mean,
know.
he goes under the he was in Trumbo,
Oh
and
yeah.
that got acting consideration for him at the
Maybe
Oscars.
I
I
should
don't think
probably
he
check
was
that out.
I don't think he was nominated, and then he starred as LBJ in this movie called All the Way, which
Mm-hmm.
Lyndon B. Johnson, one of the presidents from the 1960s, led the civil rights
he was
movement.
he was in Kung Fu Panda 3.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was
is he?
Poe's dad.
Yeah.
Is he really
he's the
Poe's dad?
he's the duck.
Yeah,
He's in Power Rangers as
the
Zardon or something like
computer.
that.
Zordon.
Yeah,
The computer
yeah,
man.
yeah.
It's also funny to think about that he was one of the suit actors. That's what he was like early on as an actor. He played the kaiju's in the suits, which is why
Also,
he's in Power Rangers.
he's really
that's crazy.
funny. I don't know if you guys have seen him in Malcolm in the Middle, but
Oh yeah.
he has some of
Yeah.
the I loved Malcolm in the Middle growing up, and I know this is completely off topic,
Yeah.
but
We're just
he
talking about Bryan
is
Cranston now.
Bryan Cranston episode. But he is one of the funniest actors I've ever seen in a sitcom in that show.
Yeah.
Next to some of the guys in Community, because I love Community,
Hmm.
but like in that show, like he kind of stands above like the kids in that cast just because of how like weird he is and not. It shows his range from Breaking Bad to that. That's his
Hmm.
range. It's crazy.
Well, maybe I gotta check that out now. It's kind of on a Bryan Cranston kick. Okay, enough about Bryan Cranston. Let's get into Brandon's second pick. Brandon, go into it.
I chose a Studio Ghibli film for my second pick. I got
Poggers.
Kiki's Delivery Service.
Ooh,
All right.
nice.
So, for any of you who don't know, this is a 1989 film where a girl, a little witch, flies to like a town to kind of hone in her powers and gain her independence. As such, she leaves all of her friends and family behind and only gets to bring along her cat. And along that way, she has to be able to make friends in order to make a living in her life, which is really relatable for somebody in college like myself, and I'm suppose for my friends as well. And the way this shines through is in her keen ability to kind of gain these friendships through business opportunities, through just running into people on the street, or just to being kind to people. It's kind of like Totoro in that sense, where there isn't really a lot going on a plot level. It's more about the themes and character relationships than it is particularly about getting from A to B. It is more about the journey than it is about the destination, which is what I think friendship films really do best. Like, because whether it be friendship films or adventure films, they really are exploring characters on a deeper level rather than the plot or the way one good beats one evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service is really wholesome. You really feel friendships built, and it's not just one on one. It's like multiple, which is I know that goes against Ethan's kind of
Well, I said
individual.
there can be multiple. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to like
Hmm.
I wanted to make note of that.
Right. Right.
But yeah, very wholesome, very sweet.
Well, I gotta say, I'm glad you brought this up because I want to share this quote from Hayao Miyazaki that has stuck with me for such a long time about friendship in his film and just overall love in his film. So he said, I've become more skeptical of the unwritten rule that just because a boy and a girl appear in the same feature, a romance must ensue. Rather, I want to portray a slightly different relationship, one where the two mutually inspire each other to live. And if I'm able to, then I'll be closer to portraying a true expression of love. And I'm just like, that that is just such a beautiful thing, and I think Kiki's Delivery Service is one of the uh biggest, like, the one of the top examples of what he's talking about here, because I think the main drive of this film is the relationship between Kiki and that boy. I don't remember his name. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's just like the innocence between those two. You never feel anything romantic. I think you do
He's
kind
like
of feel
has a
on the
crush
boy's
on her.
side. Yeah, he does have a crush on her, but even so, like, just like the way Kiki like interacts with the people in this world, you're just like, yes, this is like these are just like good people. It's such a wholesome film, I think. And oh, good, that's a good pick for me. Chris, I have you seen Kiki's Delivery Service? What is that, one of
No,
the
I
few?
haven't. Yeah, that's
Oh,
the one.
okay.
That's one I haven't seen. But like, Miyazaki, from the few films I've seen from him, he has always delivered perfect work. Like, he's one of those directors that, like, granted I haven't seen very many of his films, much to your guys' disappointment. Um, but like, you know, I think I bring this up a lot, but like there are a few directors that all three of us adore.
Yeah.
We're talking Denis Villeneuve, we're talking Fincher, we're talking Quentin Tarantino, and I think Miyazaki ranks among them, like right up there with like Kurosawa or whoever. But
I
yeah,
think he's
so
he's slowly becoming my favorite director of all time.
And we've seen all of his movies.
Yeah.
He's never made a single bad movie.
He's not. I think if I rewatch Wind Rises, I haven't yet. I said I was going to on episode 21. That was 6 episodes ago. I still haven't rewatched it, but once I rewatch it, and if my opinion goes higher, I think I might take him to number one because that dude is just a genius, a genius on
He's
life.
he's like yeah, like I can't speak specifically to Kiki's delivery service, but Miyazaki has such an eye and a voice for like everything to do with us as humans.
Right.
The stories we tell, the way we feel about things, and just like he speaks so closely to for whatever it is he does, like he's able to touch something in us that like it really does take a master of their craft to be able to do that.
Yeah.
He does it
And yeah,
through this magical realism.
yeah.
It's kind of hard to put a finger on if you're an up and coming director because it takes a lot of imagination. But to tap into somebody's like inner mind and psyche, you have to take them back to when they had an imagination or when they were a kid.
Yeah.
You remember
Remember when you were a kid?
Yeah. And when you do that, then you kind of make the audience a vulnerable participant in your
Right.
future,
Yeah.
right? And in doing so, you can connect things in a fantasy to something that might happen in reality, even if what's happening would never happen in reality. Thematically or character wise, it will somehow make a connection.
Right.
So yeah,
Oh,
that's my
okay.
number two.
Yes. Listen, the more Ghibli love we can give on this podcast, the better, in my book. So, great pick, Brandon.
Yeah, from
Chris?
Up on Poppy Hill. Let's go.
No, shut up. Okay, all but that movie. I'm just kidding. Chris, take us in your
All right.
second pick.
My second pick is another animated film. It is a 1995 film directed by kind of crazy guy, but also somewhat talented guy, John Lasseter. Big fan of Stacked.
Kind of crazy, to say the least.
Come here, come closer. Come here.
He's back.
But yeah, he's a big fan of Stacked. He endorsed us many episodes ago.
Yeah.
John Lasseter, and it is his original 1995 film Toy Story. Now,
Alright.
one thing I think about, like when it comes to the Toy Story series of films, like Toy Story 2 and 4 for me are like very much dealing with this idea of self-identity and especially the character of Woody coming to terms with himself and understanding who he wants to be. And in Toy Story 3, I think that really deals with growing up, letting go of one's childhood and moving towards maybe your adolescence or into adulthood or whatnot. But with Toy Story 1, I think it's a very pure story about friendship and overcoming the preconceived notions you had about someone when you had first met them. So, I mean, yeah, everyone knows the story. I don't think I need to break it down much more than Woody and Buzz's friendship. Everyone knows who they are and like what a difficult journey they had for Woody to accept Buzz as his like quote unquote competitor as Andy's favorite toy. But it's also about Buzz coming to terms with himself as not a space ranger. He is a toy. And like them reconciling these broken aspects of who they are through their friendship. And by the end of the film, that both them and the people around them are all the better for it. And yeah, I think like it's just a very heartwarming film about two people that, you know, like they don't seem like they fit together, a cowboy and a space ranger, but they do because they have a shared love for, you know, each other and the people around them. So yeah, I think this one is like how like I could not talk about friendship in film without talking about Toy Story. What do you guys think?
Great pick. I recently rewatched this film for my animated film genre study class, and I think it all holds up except for its animation itself.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's more on the tin toy side than what we see today. You know,
It's
In
not
but
Toy Story
hey,
4.
entirely ugly. The humans are.
I don't know. Some of the faces that Woody makes during the movie are kind of weird. No,
What?
the one where he goes. I,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Throw up a picture.
the sort of smirk that he has.
I think the best way, Ethan, to show someone the transition between the quality of animation between Toy Story 1 and 4 is compare the dog in Toy Story 1 and the cat in 4. And then you'll just be like, yeah, night and day.
Yeah,
you can't tell me.
It's insane. But yeah, it's a great story, like you said, about changing your expectations about somebody, you know? Like Woody sees Buzz as a threat to him, you know, because he thinks that Buzz is going to be the one that ends up replacing Woody as Andy's favorite toy. And it's just like it's a story about jealousy for Woody, you know? And then it's more of an existential film for Buzz, I feel, because it's him realizing like who he is and what he is, you know, rather than a space ranger. But yeah, like Woody and Buzz, the friendship is iconic, you know. I feel like if you ever talked about movie duos, someone would bring up Woody and Buzz in the conversation. So this is a great pick. Totally understand it, Brandon.
This movie is about overcoming prejudice, you know? Like you said, this is like he does not, like, he is jealous. He feels like he's going to be replaced because this is something cooler and newer. And the relationship in the film is really solid because it highlights the evolution of that relationship really well through their own introspective character journeys. Because Woody's journey is that of he's the leader, he loses that title, or he seemingly thinks he loses that title. He gets jealous and gets like rid of Buzz, and then learns to kind of care about him through like not self-inflicted, but joint trauma with Buzz at Sid's house. And then Buzz is like you said, more about him realizing what he is and what his role is, and show that because he is kind of a narcissist. Buzz is a narcissist, whether or not you think he means to be as like a good natured one or anything, because he does like thrive off praise and being kind to people, which can kind of come off as being asshole, or like being an asshole, because he's playing into that. He's not being humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you don't do that, it shows your cockiness and you seem arrogant and hubristic. And once he comes to terms with that and hits rock bottom, and Woody kind of tries to motivate him, whether that be for his own self-preservation or not, it kind of joins them at the hip, and they like instantly become friends at the end. And it doesn't feel out of place and weird, even though it feels like their friendship is only so short-lived and so real. But that's what the sequels do. They build upon that, except for 4, which I know you guys have feelings about, but I love that.
Oh, Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 4. So sad.
Because he's a Trump supporter.
Buzz is a Trump supporter.
Well, Tim Allen.
Tim Allen is.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Go on his Twitter. You'll have a field day. He's been saying some insane stuff about Marxism and everything like that. I think it's super funny. All right. Great pick, Chris. On to me for the last round. My last pick is also a Pixar film.
A Bug's Life.
No, not Bug's Life. It's actually, I'm going to call this a restack. I don't know.
Huh?
A film we've already brought up in the past, but what didn't go into the final stack, then I bring it up again. We talked about it, how it's a great platonic film, platonic friendship, 2003, Monsters, Inc.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
I think
excellent.
This is my all-time favorite.
I think
Pixar
it's actually
film.
01.
01? Oh, sorry. 01. My bad. 2001, Monsters, Inc. Just Woody and Buzz in this movie, man. Like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen a Pixar movie. No, Mike and Sully, I think, are way more of an iconic friendship than Woody and Buzz, just because the iconic quote, "We're a team. Nothing is more important than our friendship." Like, that's what this whole movie is about. Is you see the dynamic between Mike and Sully in the beginning of this film, and you think that Mike Wazowski's sort of getting the short end of the stick here by being the assistant, you know? Um, and then throughout this adventure, like, I think both characters sort of realize, like, what they need from each other. Like, you know, like, they both find the value in their friendship by this crazy situation they have with Boo, you know, the human character, and like being on the run from the law and everything like that. And this is a great film about like a friendship being tested, um and just like prevailing in the end. You know, I love the voices of Billy Crystal and John Goodman, like such perfectly casted characters. um and you know, we talked all about like the world and stuff like that in the monsters episode, so I'm not really going to go more into that, but I just want to touch on like this film is, it just like is an absolutely beautiful exploration of a friendship, and I had to do it again. I had to pick this movie again because I love it so much. Brandon.
I almost picked this movie for my
Yeah.
third one because, but I knew we had talked about it before on the Stacked our
Hmm.
podcast. But this is one of my favorite Pixar movies. Has been for a really long time. Outside of the sequel Toy Story movies, the three and
Yeah.
four, which I really love. Um, this movie, out of all of their originals, like number one films,
Yeah.
stands out. This and Inside Out for me, I think. And the reason why is there are two friendships in this. There's the relationship between Boo and Sully and Mike. And both of
Hmm.
those relationships are extremely wholesome.
Yeah.
There's one about overcoming what you believe one thing is. You view one thing as an energy source and the other one views you as a monster. How do you kind of overcome that prejudice, somewhat like the first Toy Story movie? And
Right.
then, like you said, there's this other really great friendship predicated on this uh, belief of a superior person because of, like, you might have a friend who's better looking than you, who just is like, the superior person at work, but you're still their friend. But it is when you examine like the friendship outside of like that moment, like as roommates or as
Hmm.
equals, that you really find like why these two people communicate so effectively and
Yeah.
why they are such good friends to begin with. And like you nailed it. There is no way they could have casted this any better. Their chemistry carries over and I think saves Monsters University,
Oh
because
yeah,
I know you
definitely.
don't like that movie as much as Chris and I do,
Mm.
but I think it's an enjoyable film because of them, and I think their friendship evolves, over time. But just to focus on Monsters Inc., lovely, lovely. I agree with you on the more iconic duo than Woody and Buzz.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. Okay. So I also really, really love Monsters Inc. and Monsters University. There's that scene in Monsters Inc. where they get banished to the snow world, but it just turns out to be like, somewhere
Yeah.
snowy. So, and they have that big argument in this ice cave, and it's,
Oh, that's such a good scene.
wow, great scene. Like, you
Yeah.
really see, like, these guys are friends, but man, they get testy with each other sometimes, and that's realistic because, yeah, you don't get along with your best friends every single time, even though largely you might. But yeah, I think like they do a really great job of being able to show the ins and outs, and like I said, that's a big thing I look for with great friendship films. um yeah, I think I would I would agree with you guys that this might be a better friendship um than Buzz and Woody, but I
Hmm.
would say among like the discourse of the world, I think
Yeah.
people recognize Buzz and Woody as a friendship more than Sully and Mike. And I think that's just because Toy Story just tends to be more popular.
I just feel
And
like
just
it's
because
a
there's also more movies, I
Yeah.
feel
yeah.
like.
But it's established from the get go in Monsters Inc. and Monsters University. Well, halfway
No.
through Monsters University,
Yeah.
that they're friends, you
Right.
know? And one of the things I always will go back to is the end of the movie where
Hmm.
Mike painstakingly
Oh, the door.
puts
Hmm.
together the door.
Yeah.
And you see his hands are torn up because he had to go through the shredder, And
Yeah.
he gave up all of that time and, you know, he could have been doing better things, right? But he
Mm-hmm.
did it because he knew his friend wanted to do this thing at
Yeah.
least one more time, because he knew it
Yeah.
meant something to him.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
That's a big bro move right
yeah,
there.
big
it
bro
is.
move.
It really is. After that big fight, he kind of it wasn't like,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of deserved,
Yeah.
sacrifice. It's
Yeah.
a sacrifice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Sacrifice.
Brandon, take us in your last pick.
All right, my last film is a 1969 film. I think neither of you guys have seen it. It's
Hmm.
about four friends. It's called Bob and Ted and Carol and Alice. That's what it's called.
Oh.
So, this is a movie that I saw last year, and it's about these four friends, two couples who go to or one couple that goes to a sexual like liberation camp and kind of sort out their feelings in like the transitionary late 60s period, where
Mm-hmm.
like there was a sexual awakening, there were these new ideas, there was the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, and these two friends, or no, this couple, right? They like decide we're not going to do our relationship the traditional way. We're going to be completely open about who we date and if we date and or sleep with other people to counteract this conservative 1960s culture. And what makes it so fun is that there's this other couple that they're best friends with and they're doing drugs with one night. And that other couple kind of is going through relationship problems and they decide to kind of go through the same thing that this couple is going through, which may or may not be the right thing. So one couple is definitely cooler that with this idea than the other. And it's
Yeah.
a great little comedy that is like really ahead of its time because it depicts one of friendships and how like they transcend like sexuality sometimes, and also how relationships are not just defined by physical actions or going out with people. It's about the people.
It seems very it seems very 70s in its themes, you know? I mean, it's 1969, so I guess you can technically count it 70s, but I feel like I yeah, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like it is one of those uh sort of culture breaking films for the time, you know, cuz things were pretty at least in the media, you know. Uh
Mhm.
you did have like the hippie movement and stuff like that, and civil rights movement in the 60s, but you didn't really see these ideologies, this sort of free loving ideologies in like movies and TV until
Exactly.
I feel like until the 70s. So that's cool to hear that it's like it sort of is one of the films that sort of started this off, you know.
Hmm.
I got to check it out. Chris, any thoughts?
No, I'm in the exact same boat as you. Like, seeing like this whole like thing about like ideological like shifting and all that. Like, I think that's a very interesting, that's a concept that I'm very fascinated by. It's something I read about, I think, a lot in like my film studies papers. So yeah, I'm very much interested by that. And I mean, I've never heard about this film before. So yeah, Brandon, you sold me.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Chris, you want to take us? Let's wrap this up with your last
Yep.
pick.
So I had a bit of a hard time finding my last pick. I will give a quick honorable mention to The Iron Giant. I came this
Ah,
close to picking it, but
yeah.
I decided not to because I feel like I could save that for another one. So my final pick, I wanted to find something comedic. I really wanted to hone into that. And I kept jumping between either a buddy cop film or a stoner comedy film. So I buddy cop films, you've got Rush Hour, you got Hot Fuzz, Nice
Oh
Guys,
yeah.
Bad Boys, Men in Black,
Ooh.
whatever. And stoner comedies, you got Superbad, Bill and Ted, The Interview, Dude, Where's My Car?
Mm-hmm.
Like the list goes
Pineapple
on.
Express.
But yeah, and I haven't seen that. I need to see that. But the film that I chose, I think, is a perfect conglomeration of these two.
Oh yeah.
It is 22 Jump Street, directed
22.
by
Here
directed
we
by
go.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller in 2014. It is a buddy cop film, but it's also very much a stoner comedy film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, like, you know, you have all these antics about like how they're making fun of the fact that this is a sequel. There's this amazing scene that I know we all love with Ice Cube and the daughter, and then there's that whole thing, and
Yeah.
we could talk about that scene for hours because that's perfect comedy right there. But why I picked this about in terms of friendship, I think there's this great story about how Jenko, played by Channing Tatum, feels dragged down by I forget his name. Jonah Hill's
Schmidt.
character, Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Yeah, Schmidt. He feels dragged down by Schmidt in the sense of like, you know, there's a bit
Literally.
like he was talking about how like he feels like when he's playing football he can fly, and like he feels like there's so much more out there for him when he's able to break away from the quote unquote restraints that Jonah Hill places on him. And there's this great like exchange between them about like how what's more important, our friendship or our individuality. And by the end of the film, I think it, although it does lean towards friendship over our individuality, which I think like is an admirable thing in a way, I do think they do also recognize that like they are different people.
Yeah.
There
And
needs to
like,
be a
you know,
little of both.
yeah, and like Jenko is obviously a star athlete. He is a great cop in the sense of like his physicality and able to, you know, solve crime on a dime. But Jonah Hill's character, he's intelligent, he's really smart, he knows how to like handle things really well. And like I think they do a great job of exploring how their friendship kind of like I don't know, like interweaves between one another. And I don't know, it's just a great like film. It's actually like kind of touching, like that scene at the end of the beach where they say like, you know, I'm in, like I'm in all the way, man. Like you're my best friend, yet. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
there's something about it just feels so like this is their friendship, and it's so ridiculous, but also so funny and so like heartwarming in a weird way. I don't know how else to put it than that. But I mean, you guys love this movie. What do you guys think?
Yeah, like I think another a really great scene to emphasize the sort of turmoil they go through in this film is the couples counseling scene
Hmm.
Yes.
where it's played so well where like the counselor like thinks that these two are like an actual couple, you know, and they're
Yeah.
talking about their relationship, but the way they're saying it is like them as partners as cops, not as partners, you know,
Yeah.
romantically. And it's a really funny scene. Uh
Underrated.
yeah. And I mean this film like it knows it trudges over a lot of similar beats from the first film, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's very self-aware that like this whole the whole Jump Street model sort of is a repetitive thing. So they really play into that to try to make something uh original and fun. And I think they accomplish that. But um yeah, like you said, Chris, like uh Channing Tatum's character like sort of now finally finding his crowd, you know, with the
Yeah.
jocks, like which sort of align with his skills, and then Jonah Hill this time being the one that's like sort of left out, you know, because I think he was the one that was like the popular one, right,
In
from
high school.
in the high school one, yeah,
Yeah,
because
and then
Channing
Channing
Tatum
Tatum
hung
was
out with the nerds,
yeah.
right? Yeah, that's right. But so it's just it's fun for them to like I think this is a lot like Monsters Inc. 2, where the first film sort of like
Hmm.
uh this one was establishing the relationship, but now this one's already established like Monsters Inc., you know. And
Hmm.
now you got to see them continue and work through it. So yeah,
I was
funny
gonna say the
film.
exact same thing.
Really? Word for
Yeah,
word?
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. What you got anything else to say, Brandon?
I mean, it is a continuation of the relationship. Personally, I don't find it necessarily heartwarming. I don't think it's like bad or anything. I didn't
Right.
get emotional at that scene in the movie. However, I do recognize that there's a lot more character work being done below the surface through comedy work, which is really deft.
Right.
Usually you don't have one in the same. Usually you'll have your dramatic scenes and your comedy scenes. But like you said, that scene with the counselor is doing a lot of legwork here in terms of like one, their insecurities as partners, and two, just being a funny scene because there's a bit of dramatic irony between the audience, what they know and what the counselor knows, which is very little. So in that sense, like there are moments of this movie that are extremely clever in depicting that friendship differently, but it is kind of similar in a sense to the first film, and I can't overlook that similarity.
Right. Okay. Well, there it is. Those are all of our films. So before we get to hashing out this final stack of friendship, there's no double stacks episode, so it's going to be hard to figure out which 3 films we want to put. Let's go through our films one more time, so we're all refreshed and ready to, debate out and share our pitches. So my stack for this episode was 2010's The Trip, 2011's The Untouchables, and then 2001's Monsters Inc. Brandon?
I had 1998 Central Station, 1989's Kiki's Delivery Service, and 1969's Bob, Ted, Carol, and Alice.
And I had 2014's How to Train Your Dragon 2, 1995's Toy Story, and 2014's 22 Jump Street.
Alrighty. Let's see here.
I think Monsters Inc. should be here.
Monsters Inc.
I would put up
Yeah.
Monsters Inc. I think we all universally love the friendship in there.
I think I was gonna go either between Monsters Inc. and Toy Story. I think we're like one of those two should be on this list, and I think are we all in
Monsters Inc.
agreement for Monsters Inc.?
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
okay with Monsters Inc.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. Let's see. We can make this film just all animated movies. Just do Monsters Inc., Kiki's, How to Train Your Dragon 2. No, but let's see. Let's try to spread out into different genres here.
What about Central Station?
I think we should put Central Station on this list.
Just because it's so different from the rest of them.
Yeah.
It feels like unlike a lot of friendship movies, especially of recent. Usually it's people of the same age. See, people of mostly the same background, but there's enough in common. But in that movie, like there's so much difference between the 2 main characters.
Right. And that sort of tackles this theme that we put together of 2 different kinds of people coming together, an uncommon relationship,
Yeah.
And then for the third one, I think, let's see, I would be down for 22 Jump Street, because I think that's an action buddy cop, a buddy cop movie is a pretty iconic like sort of friendship thing in cinema.
It's gonna be a chaotic marathon.
It really is.
Friendships are chaotic though.
Then do you want to do something a bit more like sentimental with How to Train Your Dragon 2? I know a lot of people like those.
Here's my argument for 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
If we do that one, then we have all 3 separate kind of genres. You've got an animated kids movie.
Yeah.
You've got a action, adult humor comedy, and then you've got a melodramatic sort of darker comedy drama, in Central Station. So you've got 3 different films. And also I feel like you can watch 22 Jump Street without having watched 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Whereas with How to Train Your Dragon 2, I think it helps to have the first one.
Yeah. Okay. So
is that fair?
I think we're all in a pretty good agreement that this should be our list.
Yeah.
All right, let's figure out our order here. Let's kick it off with 22 Jump Street.
Yeah, I think that's a good party starter.
Yeah.
Then Central Station.
Then Central Station.
Yeah.
Then Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. will melt you and want you to make you want to hug your homies.
Well, you can't end on Central Station because of how it ends. So.
Yeah. These movies will make you want to kiss your homies goodnight. So. All right. That's a good order. And this is a good.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Freaking COVID not letting me kiss my homies goodnight. Yeah, so let's get into our quintessential friendship movie stack for episode 27 of the podcast. Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So we'll be starting off with Phil Lord and Chris Miller's 2014 buddy cop film, 22 Jump Street, a story about 2 best friends in the police force, and they get up to crazy adventures together, but it's also a great story about expectations, about individuality, and about, of course, friendship.
All right.
Our number 2 film is Central Station, a great unlikely friendship feature about an older woman and a young boy as they road trip across the Brazilian country.
And our last film, as Brandon would say, is an iconic Pixar film, Pete Docter's Monsters Inc. One of the ultimate explorations in platonic love between these two perfectly casted and iconic characters of Mike Wazowski and Sully. I forgot Sully's last name. Isn't that weird? We don't remember Sully's full name.
No, well, Sully is his last name.
Oh, is it
James
like
P. Sullivan?
Oh yeah, James P.
James
Sullivan.
Not
as
the guy who
iconic as
landed
Mike
the
Wazowski.
Hudson, the plane on the Hudson.
I bet there's a Sully poster with
humanity out of the cockpit.
Sully as the captain. We don't even need to look that up. It's probably already out there. But yeah, a great film about friends, a beautiful film about friends. And that will end this episode with us three friends. You know, we've had our turmoil, we've had our problems these past 27 episodes, but I think we can put that all behind us.
Can I say something? I think
Yeah.
it's kind of beautiful how we bookended it. You start the trilogy, right, with 22 Jump Street, which is two buddy cops, right? Then you end with two brothers in Mike and Sully.
Yeah.
Brothers in arms, brothers in duty.
Brothers in arms in the Monster Army. I want a Monsters Inc. sequel.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want another prequel. I would love to see them come back and like.
But what would the drama be, bro? Flash it on screen.
Yeah, the iconic face. Oh my god. I maybe something with Boo being grown up or something. I don't know.
I would like that. Something a la Inside Out.
Yeah.
Because Pete Docter's is genius. Anyway.
Yeah. We could ponder about potential sequels all day. Let's wrap up this podcast. Thank you all for listening to the 27th episode of Stacked. Yeah, okay, bye.